Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
नमो
Bhagavate
भगवते
Vasudevaya.
वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
नमो
Bhagavate
भगवते
Vasudevaya.
वासुदेवाय।
Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam
नारायणं
Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
Naram
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
देवीं
Devim
सरस्वतीं
Saraswati
व्यासं
Vyasam
Tato Jayam Udirayet
ततो जयमुदीरये।
Srinvatam Swakatah Krishna
Srinvatam
सर्वं
Swakata
स्वकतः कृष्ण
Krishna
Nyashravana Kirtana
पुण्यश्रवण
Savana
कीर्तन
Kirtana
Hridyantasto
It's
Hitaprani
rhythm.
Vidyantasya
Yantastohi
भद्राणि
Abodani
Vidhunoti Sahritsitam
Vidunoti
Vidhunam
Sahratsatam
Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu
Nashtaprayetsu
नष्टप्रायेषु
Bhadrasu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
नित्यं
Nityam
भागवते
Bhagavata
वया।
Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
भगवते
Bhagavate Uttama
उत्तमश्लोके
Sloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Nayishtiki
Bhaktir Bhavati
भक्तिर्भवति
Naistiki
Krishnaya Vasudevaya
Krishnaya
Krishnaya Vasudevaya
Vasudevaya
Devaki Nandanaya Cha
Devaki
Devakinandanaya
Nandanaya Cha
Nanda Gopa Kumaraya
Nanda Gopa Kumara
Nandagopakumaraya
Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Govindaya
Govindaya Namo
Namo
Namaha.
Namaha.
Hare Krishna. So we last week we concluded first chapter. Now we entered second chapter. So the second chapter is titled The Lord in the Heart. So the first chapter primarily focused on the so it was primarily description of Virat Rupa, on which a sadhaka can focus to achieve perfection. And so the topic is primarily about Dharanashraya. Dharanashraya means shelter for one who meditates. Let me share the PPT. Yeah. So Dharanashraya means shelter for meditation. For a neophyte yogi, the shelter for meditation is the Virat Rupa. Virat Rupa is basically how various things within the material universe can be considered as parts of the Lord himself. Because everything comes from Lord, one can meditate how everything exists within the body of Lord. So we described various items, how each of those actually are parts and parcels of Lord, and a yogi can meditate on that. So it's called Virat Rupa form, and it is also mentioned it's an imaginary form, but because everything comes from Lord, it's a bona fide form for meditation. Though it is imaginary form, means Lord actually, does not exist that way. It is part and parcel of Lord. It is emanated from the Lord, but it is not Lord himself. But however, it can be meditated. It's a form, valid form to be meditated upon. And then if one advances further and purifies himself from desire, he can meditate on the Paramatma form of the Lord, right? So this first and second chapter focus on Dharanashraya, or the object of meditation for a neophyte yogi, which is the Virat form, and an advanced yogi who is freed from material desires, which is the Paramatma form of the Lord. So these are the two dharana shreyas are the object of meditations for one who want to achieve perfection through Ashtanga Yoga. This is also discussed, even though before verses mentioned how bhakti is superior to all these processes, because there are some yogis who practice this. Sukadeva Goswami describes about these paths as well. So two topics are Dharanashraya for Ashtanga Yogi, the object of meditation for Ashtanga Yogi, the object of meditation for a yogi, advanced yogi, which is Paramatma. So that will be described in the second chapter. And the goal of the neophyte yogi, which is to be meditating on the Paramatma form, and the goal of meditating on Paramatma, that will be described in the second chapter. So if you overall see, the first chapter describes the object of worship for a neophyte yogi. Second chapter describes object of worship for advanced yogi and how exactly he can do it, right? So that is the overall summary. So now we will discuss the second chapter. In the first 7 verses, before going further about describing meditation on Paramatma, Sukadeva Goswami first rejects Karmakanda as a process, even though it is a bona fide in the sense it is mentioned in the scriptures. It is not really beneficial for the soul, because soul is spiritual. Karmakanda is only helping the spirit soul to achieve material benefits in the material world. So there is a rejection of that path before further describing the the object of meditation for advanced yogi, which is the super soul, right? So yeah, we'll first focus on the first 7 verses, right? So yeah, so we'll go to the first verse in the second chapter. Yeah. So one may wonder if the Virat form of the Lord is imaginary, how can one achieve perfection by meditating on such a form? So to throw away such doubts, Sukadeva Goswami first gives an example of a person who achieved perfection through meditation on Virat form of the Lord. So that is described here in this first verse. Sri Sukha Uvacha.
Sri Sukho Vacha.
Evam pura dharanayatma yonir.
Prabhuji, you're not sharing that.
You share the verse, Prabhuji?
Oh, okay, 1 second.
You see the PPT.
Can you see?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Evam pura dharanayatma yonir.
Evam puradharanayatmayone
Nastam smritim prachavarudyhatustat.
nashtam sritim pratyavadhyatushtat
Tatha sasarje damamoga drishtir. Yatha pyayat prag vyavasaya buddhi. Yeah. Please read.
Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, formerly, prior to the manifestation of the cosmos, Lord Brahma, by meditating on the Virat Rupa, regained his lost consciousness by appeasing the Lord. Thus, he was able to rebuild the creation as it was before.
So, Lord Brahma meditated on this Virat form to remember the process of creation. So in the second and third cantos, there are 2 times it is mentioned how Lord Brahma forgets the process of creation, because forgetfulness is a nature of the material existence, right? So even the greatest person within the material world, Lord Brahma, also forgets the process of creation. So one of them is the first time it is mentioned in the first kalpa, when Lord Brahma doesn't know at all about his purpose. Then he actually moves up and down in the lotus feet where he was, created by Lord Garbhodaksa Vishnu. And he was hinted about performance of tapa, and then he remembers about the process, and then he actually meditates. That is one time. And then this is second time when he forgets, and then he was reminded to meditate on the Virat Rupa, and then he regains the memory. And then third time it will be described in fifth canto, where it is mentioned that again Lord Brahma forgets, and he also forgets how to revive. That time Lord Vishnu, taking mercy upon him, he sends Mother Saraswati in the mouth of Lord Brahma. That's how he remembers the process of creation. So in this way, material world means one forgets. And Lord Brahma was able to remember the process of creation by meditating on the form of Virat Rupa. So one need not doubt about the validity of meditating on Virat Rupa to achieve perfection, because Lord Brahma himself succeeded in that path. Yeah. So please read, Prabhu.
The example cited herein of Sri Brahmaji is one of forgetfulness. Brahmaji is the incarnation of one of the mundane attributes of the Lord. Being the incarnation of the passion mode of material nature, he is empowered by the Lord to generate the beautiful material manifestation. Yet, due to his being one of the numerous living entities, he is apt to forget the art of his creative energy. This forgetfulness of the living being, beginning from Brahma down to the lowest insignificant ant, is a tendency which can be counteracted by meditation on the Virat Rupa of the Lord. This chance is available in the human form of life, and if a human being follows the instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam and begins to meditate upon the Virat Rupa, then revival of the pure consciousness and the contraction of the tendency to forget his eternal relationship with the Lord can follow simultaneously. And as soon as this forgetfulness is removed, the Vyavasaya Buddhi, as mentioned here and in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 41st verse, follows at once. This ascertained knowledge of the living being leads to loving service to the Lord, which the living being requires.
Yeah. So this forgetfulness of living entity, beginning from Lord Brahma down to the lowest significant end, is a tendency which can be counteracted by the meditation on Virat Rupa. So this is a memory increasing technique, right? Lot of children want to increase their memory. This is a technique. Especially this is mainly about remembering one's spiritual relation with Lord. Primarily that is the purpose. But one can meditate on Lord's form to remember his relation with Lord. Is the point. Yeah. So once that remembrance happens, then his intelligence is fixed. Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi. Ekeha Kurunandana. So one who is resolute in purpose. That happens for those who meditate on the form of the Lord. Yeah. So after intelligence is fixed, one can render the devotion service to the Lord. So it happens in sequence. First, one purifies his intelligence by meditating on the form of Virat Rupa. Once intelligence is purified, he will be now fixed in performing loving devotion service to the Lord. Yeah. Yeah. So now, First thing is he established that Virat Rupa is the form to meditate. Now in the second verse onwards, next 2-3 verses, where Sukadeva Goswami rejects karma kanda, or endeavors in general, the endeavors to increase material happiness while existing in the material world. He says this is all fruitless labor. There is no point in doing such an effort. So let's read these verses. Sabdasya hi brahmana esha panta
Shabdasya hi brahman isha panta
jannam abhirjayati dhir apardhay
yannam yati tirpa
paribrahmastatra na vindaterdam paribrahmastatra na vindaterdam Maya mayeva sanaya sayana Please read.
The way of presentation of the Vedic sounds is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things like heavenly kingdoms. The conditioned souls hover in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness in such places.
So the material happiness is compared to dreams. The heavenly happiness, if suppose if somebody dreams like he is living in a big palace, and then next day he wakes up and he doesn't have that palace, he will be miserable and depressed. So what Sukadeva Goswami is saying is, the heavenly kingdom, enjoyment in heavenly kingdom is also like a dream, right? Anything material, that is promising happiness, whether it is higher planets or within this planet, higher happiness in various pursuits, are all like dreams. When the dream is over, for example, when the good karma is over in the heavenly kingdom, people are sent back to the material world again, to the Marchaloka, the middle planetary systems, where they have to again accumulate karma to go back there. So similarly, the happiness promised within this world is a temporary affair, and it is like a dream. And one, after losing it, becomes more miserable, hankering for it again and again. So in this way, one will be, left with intangible happiness, very short-term happiness. Right? Because the jiva soul is actually seeking for happiness, but in the wrong place in the material world. Right? The soul is never satisfied with these heavenly pleasures or any material happinesses promised within the material world. Yeah, please read.
Yeah. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The conditioned soul is always engaged in laying out plans for happiness within the material world, even up to the end of the universal limit. He is not even satisfied with available amenities on this planet Earth, where he has exploited the resources of nature to the best of his ability. He wants to go to the moon or the planet Venus to exploit resources there. But the Lord has warned us in the Bhagavad Gita 8.16 about the worthlessness of all the innumerable planets of the universe, as well as those planets within other systems. There are innumerable universes and also innumerable planets in each of them. But none of them is immune to the chief miseries of material existence, namely the pangs of birth, the pangs of death, the pangs of old age, and the pangs of disease. The Lord says that even the topmost planet known as Brahmaloka or Satyaloka, and what to speak of other planets like the heavenly planets, is not a happy land for residential purposes. due to the presence of material pangs as above mentioned.
So the material pangs exist everywhere within the material world. Right? Abrahma Bhuvanar Loka Punaravritana Arjuna. So in 8.16, Krishna says, from highest planet Brahmaloka to the lowest planet, every place is a place of misery because there are threefold miseries. Right? So do not try to attempt to become happy in this material existence. That's a wrong place to. The desire to be happy is valid because that is the nature of the soul. But if it is applied in the wrong place, then we'll only be more miserable. We'll never be truly happy. He's never, so what Prabhupada mentioned here is happening today. Is not, the Jiva is not satisfied with available amenities on planet Earth, where he has exploited the resources of nature to the best of his ability. We now see people trying to go to Mars, Moon, and many other planets. Right? So we can see how people still misdirect in the material world. Always, it's always there. Even in the Puranic times, it was there. There are rishis who wanted to, create, parallel universes, and planets, right? So Vishwamitra and many others did that. Even today's times also, there are people who are attempting to go visit various planetary systems so that they can be happier with the resources there. But it is not possible because the nature of Jiva is, spiritual. It's not material. Atah kavirna masuya vadarda
Atha kavirna
Namaste Artha.
syada pramatto vyavasaya buddhi
Buddhi.
siddhenyatardhe nayate tatra parisramam tatra samikshana mana.
Parishamam tatra samikshamana.
Kshemana. Please read.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, please do that.
Translation. For this reason, the enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life, while in the world of names, he should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing.
So being competent to perceive, I'll let you know when to read this.
Okay.
So being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. This is the realization part. Right? He should be intelligently fixed, right? Vyavasayatmak buddhi, and never endeavor for unwanted things. So it's a very high ground. One needs real, realization to get to such a state of thinking, right? So one should endeavor only for minimum necessities of life while in the world of names. This world is called a world of names, right? Where are all the people who have come in the past, say 100 years ago, or say 200 years ago, 300 years ago? Where are all the names of the people? There may be, thousands and thousands of forefathers that you had. Where are all the people? They're all in names. We don't even know their names, right? So generations pass. The only thing that will carry on with us is the devotion service we perform. So that is the main lesson. People have been living for many, many generations, but nothing will be left. Right? There is no legacy that, that lost in the middle world. Suppose people become famous, say somebody like very rich person like Elon Musk or somebody. How long? We don't know who was the richest person in the 18th century, for example, or say 19th century. It's just a matter of few decades. People will forget everything. Right? There were rich people in 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, but where are they? Right? So this is a world of names. People come and go, and it is like bubbles in sea waves. In sea, right? We see bubbles in the sea. How long do they stay? Just a matter of seconds in which it bursts. So material existence is also like that. Everything is very, very temporary, and people come and go. So one should understand this intelligently and not endeavor for unwanted things. One should use his time very carefully while living in this material world and focus on achieving the highest perfection, because it's only in the human form one can endeavor to achieve such a such a great things, which is to go back to Krishna, right? In other forms of life, that is not possible. Yeah, please read here, Mataji, from here to here. Rasviharini Mataji, you can read.
Perfect.
From
The dharma or the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam is perfectly distinct from the way of fruitive activities, which are considered by the devotees to be merely a waste of time. The whole universe, or for that matter, all material existence, is moving on as Jagat, simply for planning business to make one's position very comfortable or secure. Although everyone sees that this existence is neither comfortable nor secure and can never become comfortable or secure at any stage of development. Those who are captivated by the illusory advancement of material civilization, following the way of fantasy,
imagination.
are certainly madmen. The whole material creation is a jugglery of names only. In fact, it is nothing but a bewildering creation of matter like earth, water, and fire. The buildings, furniture, cars, bungalows, mills, factories, industries, peace, war, or even the highest perfection of material science, namely atomic energy and electronics, are all simply bewildering names of material elements with their co- concomitant reactions of three modes. Since the devotee of the Lord knows them perfectly well, he is not interested in creating unwanted things for a situation which is not at all reality, but simply names of no more significance than the babble of sea waves. The great kings, leaders, and soldiers fight with one another in order to perpetuate their names in history. They are forgotten in due course of time, and they make a place for another era in history. But the devotee realizes how much history and historical persons are useless products of flickering time. The fruitive worker aspires after a big fortune in the matter of wealth, women, and worldly adoration, but those who are fixed in perfect reality are not at all interested in such false things. For them, it is all a waste of time. Since every second of human life is important, an enlightened man should be very careful to utilize time very cautiously. 1 second of human life wasted in the vain research of planning for happiness in the material world can never be replaced, even if one spends millions of coins of gold. Therefore, the transcendentalist desiring freedom from the clutches of Maya or the illusory activities of life is warned herewith not to be captivated by the external features of fruitive actors. Human life is never meant for sense gratification, but for self-realization. Srimad Bhagavatam instructs us solely on the subject from the very beginning to the end. Human life is simply meant for self-realization. The civilization which aims at this utmost perfection never indulges in creating unwanted things, and such a perfect civilization prepares men only to accept the bare necessities of life or to follow the principles of the best use of bad bargain.
Yeah, you can stop now.
Yes.
So this is very powerful purport. Right? So therefore, the transcendentalist desiring freedom from the clutches of Maya or illusory activities is warned here with not to be captivated by the external features of the fruitive actors. Yeah. So a very powerful purport. So we have to take lessons from these. It's, very. So that is why we have to read Prabhupada's purports. Very powerful instructions are, spread everywhere. We may not be actually following that level right now, but at least aspirationally we can one time, at some point in our life we should get there. Right? It's a very high bar. Next few verses will be very tough. We can read here. Yeah, so now Sukadeva Goswami describes how a very intelligent person doesn't endeavor to achieve anything in this material world for comfortable life, right? He just accepts whatever comes naturally and focuses all his energy on achieving spiritual perfection. So let's read this verse. Satyam Chitau Kim Kashipo Prayaser
Satyam
Satyam
Kishitau
Prayase
Baho Swasiddhe Hirupabahanai Kim
Bahosvasiddhe
Bhagavatam
Satyanjalau Kim Purudha Pratya Patya
Satyanjalau Kim Purudhanam
Patya
Digva Kaladau Sati Kim Dukulai
Digval Kaladau Satikim Dugolai.
Yeah, see now he describes how already God has provided so many things in the nature. Why not just leverage them instead of trying to put effort to become more happy in this world? Yeah, please read.
When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there is ample covering or the skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing?
So one can live in the nature if one is fully renounced. So they basically, so all of this is preparation for a person who want to meditate on the form of Paramatma, desirelessness, right? Desireless, at least material desires are removed completely. To achieve perfection by meditating on the Paramatma form, one should be ready to adjust depending on the God provided facilities within the nature, right? So he should be able to sleep on the floor without any bed or cot. He should be able to sleep. Shouldn't be even needing a pillow, right? And then ready to use palms for drinking, water. What is the need for any utensils? And to wear, you don't need anything beyond, tree bark, right? This is such a high level for Kali Yuga. Nobody can follow any of this practically. Even those who are, meditating on Paramatma, this is a very, very high standard. So this is just to show nature actually provides all these things primarily, right? One need not endeavor to achieve anything material. Nature provides. Even our Goswamis, they were not endeavoring materially to improve their happiness. For example, they would get broken rice that is left over by Madhukari or left over in the temples. They would just eat that, and they would meditate under trees, or they would live under trees and focus on the creation of wealth of literature, Vedic literature. That was their focus. They, for the well-being of human society for all time to come, they created these wonderful literatures They created wealth for the world at large to benefit from, right? So you can imagine like what these Goswamis have created about, say, 600 years ago is now being used by so many Vaishnavas and benefiting all of them. So this is called real wealth. What was created at those times that is being used at the current time? Nothing, literally. Everything else is just, literally useless. Right? Even the wealth created by the greatest philanthropists will be spent within the first 30 to 40 years. It won't be, and it will be used for material benefit most of the times. But the wealth created by these great acharyas is benefiting the world even today and for all time to come, at least until the yuga lasts. Right? So we can see what is real wealth, and and for their own happiness sake, they lived with the bare minimums. Right? So this is the standard that Sukadeva Goswami recommends for one who want to meditate on the Paramatma form of the Lord. Yeah. Please read, anyone.
Human energy is spoiled in a vain search after such illusory happiness. If one is able to lie down on the floor, then why should one endeavor to get a good bedstead or soft cushion to lie on? If one can rest without any pillow and make use of the soft arms endowed by nature, there is no necessity of searching after a pillow. If we make a study of the general life of the animals, we can see that they have no intelligence for building big houses, furniture, and other household paraphernalia, and yet they maintain a healthy life by lying down on the open land. They do not know how to cook or prepare foodstuff, yet they still live healthy, lives more easily than the human being. This does not mean that human civilization should revert to animal life, or that the human being should live naked in the jungles without any culture, education, and sense of morality. An intelligent human cannot live the life of an animal. Rather, man should try to utilize his intelligence in arts and science, poetry and philosophy.
Yeah. So we can see that in the animal world, they don't have homes, they don't have clothes, they don't have proper food arrangements. Right? Every day they have to hunt, for example. Right? And their life is always in anxiety. Never know. For example, a tiger chases an animal to get its food. If it doesn't get food, it has to starve for a few days. And for the animal, it is life and death. Right? For a human being, life is much safer. Right? In a civil society, our plate doesn't run away when we are trying to eat. Right? It's so we have a lot more better arrangements of living standards, right? So we are not anxious like animals. So one should be grateful for such an existence, and should utilize his intelligence for right purposes. He should not use for increasing his material happiness and focus on misfocusing on spiritual life. Yeah. So this verse also further continues on the same theme, that one need not really endeavor in the middle world to live. Right? Chirani kimpati nasanti disanti bhiksham. Naivang gripa parabrata. Sorry, I think I'm missing the
Meter.
Yeah, meter. Chirani kim, no. Maybe Brahma Samhita.
Brahma Samhita maybe.
Chirani. Who want to try?
Maybe.
Radhika, want to try?
I am bad at it.
Chirani.
Maybe.
Hmm?
Saki Priya can try. Maybe.
Go ahead. Anybody, please.
चिरानि किं पति न सन्ति दिशन्ति भिक्षाम्
Chirani Kimpa.
Chirani kim pati santi disanti diksham.
नैवाङ्घ्रिपा परभृता शरीतो पियष्यन् वृद्धा गुहा किमजितो बतिनोपसामान् कस्मात् भजन्ति कवयो दन दुर्मदान्दान्
Yeah. So further continuing on the same theme that one should not endeavor too much in the material world. Right? Yeah. Please read the translation.
No torn clothes lying on the common road. Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in the charity? Do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water to the thirsty? Or the caves of the mountains now closed or above all does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth?
So Sukadeva Goswami is questioning Parikshit. Are there no torn cloths lying on the common road? See, if one wants cloths, there are always cloths available for free. You know, there are people who give their old cloths. This is how the Goswamis have, been using their cloths. Right? Even so, even in some devotee societies also, there are some poor devotees in India, in Gokul Dham. They every 6 months they go to a city temple, and the city temple devotees, they whatever cloths, devotee cloths that they don't use, they give to these devotees. And these devotees, they actually just live on the farm, and they will be happy to wear these cloths. They don't want to waste their time in earning money or buying clothes. So that was followed even in devotee societies. Right? Yeah. So do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? So trees give so many fruits. So one can live based on that. Right? So yogis can live on that. Do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water? Rivers give water, free water, no need to buy water bottles or water as such. And to shelter oneself, there are caves and mountains. In fact, Haridas Thakur, who was at the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he used to live in a cave and chant. And when he was in the cave, there used to be a big python in that same cave living alongside. But the snake never was afraid of Haridas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur was never afraid of snake. So they were peacefully living together. But devotees, who come and see Haridas Thakur, they were a little bit uncomfortable, because of which Haridas Thakur says, okay, maybe I should leave this cave and go to some other place. At which time, the python actually understands what is going on in the mind of Haridas Thakur, and he, before everybody, he leaves the cave, and and forever it doesn't return. So one can see how, if one really desires, Lord will arrange everything for him naturally. One doesn't need to endeavor materially at all. Right? So why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth. So one need not go flatter anybody to achieve anything in this world, right? So especially in devotee communities, that's why we don't go for fundraising. We, Harilash Maharaj says, we go for friend-raising. Friend-raising means we build friendly relationships, and especially those who are on devotional path, we should not expect anything from others, right? We only want to give others things that will benefit them, whether it is knowledge or whether it is prasadam. That's why Harilash Maharaj, set up this the food trucks that go almost 4 days a week and serve hot meal. No expectation, zero expectation about who come there, who eat, how many plates they take, nothing, no expectation. So this is the nature of a advanced devotee, a devotee who does not expect anything in return, but just is focused on helping others through devotion service, either serving prasadam or teaching or anything, no expectation. So that is the nature of a devotee. And right, so one never need to flatter. One doesn't really depend on wealthy people or anything. One only depends on Lord for everything. Right? Yeah. Please read. Continue here.
The renounced order of life is never meant for begging or living at the cost of others as parasite. According to the dictionary, a parasite is a sycophant who lives at the cost of society without making any contribution to that society. The renounced order is meant for contributing something substantial to society and not depending on the earnings of the householders. On the contrary, acceptance of alms from the householders by the bona fide mendicant is an opportunity offered by the saint for the tangible benefit of the donor.
In fact, actually, if a householder donates his wealth to these renounced sadhus, it will benefit the donor more than benefiting the devotee or the person who is accepting the donation, right? When we give charity for the right cause, it benefits us more than it benefits the other person. So one should think in these terms when serving devotees or when serving temples, right? So it's never a loss. It is the right use. It's the absolute right use of the facilities that Lord has given in your hand, right? Yeah, this story we discussed, we will not discuss. Haridas Thakur, how he was accepting a cave as his residence, right? Yeah, please read this part. Yeah.
A sannyasi should always live alone without company, and he must be fearless. He should never be afraid of living alone, although he is never alone. The Lord is residing in everyone's heart, and unless one is purified by the prescribed process, one will feel that he is alone. But a man in the renounced order of life must be purified by the process. Thus, he will feel the presence of the Lord everywhere and will have nothing to fear, such as being without any company. Everyone can become fearless and honest person if his very existence is purified by discharging the prescribed duty for each and every order of life. One can become fixed in one's prescribed duty by faithful oral reception of Vedic instructions, assimilation of the essence of Vedic knowledge by devotional service to the Lord.
So everyone can become a fearless and honest person if his very existence is purified by the discharging the prescribed duty for each and every order of life. Yeah. So a sannyasi or a person in renounced order should never feel fearful. Because the whole point is he gave up everything so that he can fully depend on Lord. Right? So you should never feel afraid of any living conditions because he is always protected by the Lord. Evam swasitte swata eva siddha
Evam
Swadaiva Siddha
atma priyordho bhagavan ananta
Atma priyartho Bhagavan Ananta
tam nivritto niya tardho bhajeta
Samvrittho niyatartho bhajeta
samsara hetu paramascha yatra.
Samsara
Sansaretu paramashvayatra.
So last two verses described how a person who want to take shelter of Paramatma as the object of meditation, he should give up dependence on material things and should not waste his time in material endeavors to increase happiness in the material world. Now, those are don'ts. Now he will, Sukadeva Goswami will explain what are the do's for him, what he should do, right? Now that he has a human body, he should completely fix his mind on the Paramatma within the heart. So that will be described in this verse. Yeah, please read.
Thus being fixed, one must render service unto the super soul situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency. Because he is almighty personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited. He is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshipping him, one can end the cause of conditioned state of existence.
So by completely focusing all the energy on the super soul, one should meditate on him, and by doing so, one will achieve the ultimate goal of life. Right? So, and once that is done, there is no more conditional state of existence for the jiva. So this is the so in the next few verses there will be a description about the process of meditating on the super soul. But for now, he just gave the process. The process is to meditate on the super soul. Yeah, please read here.
A conditioned soul works in the service of his temporary body, bodily relatives like the wife and children, and the necessary paraphernalia for maintaining the body and bodily relations, such as the house, land, wealth, society, and country. But he does not know that all such rendering of service are totally illusory. As we have discussed many times before, this material world is itself an illusion, like mirage in the desert. In the desert, there is an illusion of water, and the foolish animals become entrapped by such illusion and ran after the water in the desert, although there is no water at all. But because there is no water in the desert, one does not conclude that there is no water at all. The intelligent person knows well that there is certainly water in the seas and oceans, but such vast reservoirs of water are far, far away from desert. One should therefore search for water in immensity of seas and oceans, and not in the desert. Every one of us is searching after real happiness in life, namely eternal life, eternal or unlimited knowledge, and unending blissful life. But foolish people who have no knowledge of substance search after the reality of life in the illusion. This material body does not endure eternally, and everything in relation with this body such as wife, children, society, and country also changes along with the change of body.
So Prabhupada here was talking about two kinds of people. One is the karma kandis who are searching for happiness in the material world, endeavoring very hard. It's like searching for water in desert. In a desert, because of the reflection of light, it appears that there is a body of water in various places. But actually, if you go there, it's a mirage. It's just it's just a complete illusion, and there is no real water. But the jiva keeps trying to find various avenues of water in the desert, right? So that is searching for it's compared to searching for happiness in the material world. On the contrary, what is the exact opposite of searching for water in the desert, right? So that is like material endeavor to become happy in the material world. The exact opposite of what that is searching for, or saying that okay, there is no happiness at all in the material world or anywhere. So that is the wrong conclusion that Mayavadis come to, where they say, hey, there is no water at all. You keep on searching for water, you will never get it anywhere. Right? Both conclusions are wrong. One is, both these two are two extremes. One is like trying to become happy in the middle world is like searching for water in the desert. The other extreme is, okay, because there is no water in desert, there is no water anywhere. Right? That's another wrong conclusion, which is the Mayavadi's conclusion, right? Because they could not find happiness, they say they realize that there is no happiness in the material world. They say there is no happiness in the variety anywhere. The so-called happiness in the material world is about varieties. So they say, hey, there is no happiness in variety anywhere. But they miss the point that there is also a spiritual variety, just like there are large bodies of water which are meant to serve water. They also exist separately. So similarly, the Mayavadis have no idea about the spiritual position of the spiritual world. So they, because they don't accept the knowledge of the scriptures, they keep endeavoring on the mental or hovering on the mental platform, and stick to the idea that there is no happiness at all anywhere, right? So that is just the answer that Prabhupada is, the description Prabhupada is giving here. This is the last verse for the day. Kastam to anta kastvam adadricha paranu chintam
Kasvam
Paranuchintam
rite pashun asatim nama kuryat
Rite Pashun Asatim Nama Kuryat
Pashyanjanam patitam Vaitaranyam.
Pashyan Janam Patitam
Vairanyam
Swakarmajan pari tapan jusanam.
Swakarma Jampari Jushanam.
Please read.
Who else but the gross materialist will neglect such a transcendental thoughts and take to the non-permanent names only, seeing the mass of people fallen in the river of suffering as consequences of acquiring the result of their own work.
So if one sees the position of materialists who are suffering in the material world, an intelligent person should basically focus on the spiritual life, right? So who else but gross materialists who will neglect, right? If you neglect such transcendental thought, the ones that's described in the last few verses, right? And still focus on the material affairs of this material world, right? So then what is, what is the use of such a life? That's the point. It's just a like a different way of questioning, that who else but the gross materialist will neglect such transcendental thoughts. Just giving the focus on the importance of taking spiritual life very seriously while in the human body, right? So one should not waste one's human form of life. Yeah, please read.
In the Vedas, it is said that the person who are attached to demigods to exclusion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are like the animals who follow the herdsman even though they are taken to the slaughterhouse. The materialists, like animals, also do not know how they are being misdirected by neglecting the transcendental thoughts of Supreme Person. No one can remain vacant of thought.
So one should not act like animals in a herd, right? Just like animals come, they just go along with other animals and they'll be taken to slaughterhouse, right? So similarly, if a human being comes here, focus on only eating, mating, sleeping, and defending, just like animals, and focus all his energy in material happiness, then he also loses his life just like animal goes to the slaughterhouse, right? It's just, and then he will continue his life terms in the material existence again and again. So one should, if one does not focus his thought on spiritual life, naturally those thoughts will be focused on material life, because idle brain is a devil's workshop. So one should be very careful about that. Yeah. So the next section will be focused on the Paramatma form of the Lord, how one should focus on the description of the Dharanashraya for the advanced yogi, right? So the first chapter is Dharanashraya, or the object of meditation for the neophyte yogi, which is the universal form of the Lord, and that is the form that was meditated upon by Lord Brahma himself to create this universe. So it is a valid and bona fide form. And for the advanced yogi, he should be able to meditate on the super soul. So that will be described in the next section. So in this section, we focused on, or Sukadeva Goswami first focuses on removing the barriers, or saying how karmakanda is fruitless labor, right? Endeavoring to become happy by various endeavors in the material existence is not to the benefit of the soul, right? So instead, you should focus on the meditation on the Paramatma, or the super soul, right? So we'll discuss next section in the next session. We'll end here. So now we have 1 second.